So I want to before normally in a programming class we always want to download stuff, install stuff, and jump into coding and all this stuff with that as well. But let me talk to you a little bit about what JavaScript is with it, because it's like anything. I mean, we're getting into an area that before, like, you go down Home Depot, and if I was going to train you for a carpenter, you go down Home Depot and you start buying tools. And the first thing we talk about is a little bit of history about safety first. All right. So you got to know what you're dealing with. JavaScript is a very, very powerful language. I mean, it helps for you to know what is JavaScript with it, and how does it fit in industry, and what do we do with JavaScript with it. So JavaScript has grown so much with it as well. Um, I wrote some questions on here just for us to discuss and to guideline with as well. Again, quizzes and exams are based off of this information, so it helps if you take notes and follow along and pause the video and write down these notes for your memo with it, type it up, or I don't care how you want to do this, but you're going to see some of these questions over some of the content that I'm going to talk to you about. What I'm going to do is I'm going to post three questions. First of all, what is JavaScript and where can we use it with it? It's the first question. And the second question is that I'm going to asking you, we keep on, I get this question about what is the difference between um, JavaScript and Java? We still do that. And what is this thing you hear about ES7? JavaScript ES7 is floating out there with it. So three important questions in this discussion that we're going to talk about. First of all, it is true that you're going to hear that it is a client-side language that performs on the web base, and that's where but it's more than that. In 1995, when I started programming in JavaScript, it's true. It started there. It was a web base. It was all client side, and you do everything is on the browser with it. And I want to share with you a link that Wiki has a definition of JavaScript with it, and it looks like this. And they go in, they talk to you about. I mean, the definition is not. It's very technical, really. It says JavaScript, an abbreviation of JS with it, and they tell you what this is. JavaScript is a core technology, World Wide Web. You read this thing, and it still doesn't mean anything. It's web applications, and it's just layers after layers of definitions, another definitions with it. So let me water this down for the layman's term with it as well. Back then, the JavaScript that we knew back then was client side. Today, JavaScript, bottom line is, it is a JavaScript that works if there is server side included, language included as well. It could work like PHP, Ruby, AX, server side include Java server pages with it as well. It's a very, very powerful language. Matter of fact, one of the things I recommend that I recently taught a course was JavaScript using in game development with it as well. So I use a game engine. It's called Unity. Unity game engine basically has, they use JavaScript in there as well. There's actually three languages: C#, JavaScript, or Boo. Yeah, I don't know why they use Boo anymore. B-O, Boo. That's besides the point. But JavaScript it's everywhere. Everywhere. If you have knowledge about JavaScript, know how to program JavaScript, you can get a job with that as well. The first one I go back is, where can you use JavaScript? We're going back to this question. So I'm going to introduce a website to you. It's called Node.js for all JavaScript with it. It handles client-side and server-side language with it. If you don't know what server-side language is, what I'm talking about, it's the language that's the back end of the database. It connects to the database and you talk back and forth with it. The client side is from the server to the front end users. Everything's happening in the browser. So I gave you this website, this URL, nodejs.org, and if you take a look at it, this is what it is. And we're going to install a lot of the stuff before we get started with this as well. So I want you to see this. This is one of the links on there. It's nodejs.org, and I'm going to have a separate videos on how you install everything, the instructions on this right now with it. Okay, so bear with me on this. So it handles all the tasks like server-side include, like PHP, Ruby, and programming language that you had before. The second one I want to bring up and show you is called the React. JS.org. Now this is a really another cool type of JavaScript with it. You can develop desktop application at the same time using it as mobile devices at the same time. So it's a great technology that you have with it. The next one I want to talk about is called Angularjs. Angularjs, with this domain that I gave you right here, it looks like this. So AngularJS allows you same thing, but React and AngularJS, they both have some sort of flair to different type of stuff that you will see that comes across this with it as well. So just like it's very similar to React, that's what you're doing with it as well. So so you have React, AngularJS, and there's the next one is the Electron.js with it, right? The Electron.js looks like this. Every one of them, again, desktop application to mobile development with it. So it's all built into this particular technology with it. There's a lot of common denominator when we get into these type of applications. But that's what we talk about with it. So as we learn more and you're going to develop more, you're going to be so comfortable reading code and editing code and everything with it. Another one that I want to pull up is progressive JavaScript. Now, progressive JavaScript that you will see, this is the same thing, but this is mainly for animation in the web. All right. In the past, they did HTML5, and you can use different type of animation software like Flash and these things with it. Again, you're running into issues of devices that can't read flashes. All the stuff with it. Well, guess what? HTML5 and JavaScript does all of that for you as well. So that's a progressive JavaScript framework that you get into with it. Another cool one that we're going to get into is the React Virtual Reality with it. The React Virtual Reality that you're going to see, it's very similar to in the other ones you have with it, but this is like virtual reality. You wear goggles and you submerge yourself into this environment and this room, and it's done for training and everything else with it. So very powerful language to learn to develop virtual reality with it as well. Another one I'm going to talk to you about is called Tensor Flow, tensorflow.org with it. So if you look at Tensor, these development, they rely on, it's all machine language development with it. Currently, we're using R language, we're using Python to develop our language, what's called big data. You hear this thing, this data mining with it as well. Well, guess what? TensorFlow is data search and data mining and all the stuff that researchers do with it, and we do it all under Tensor with it. So just to give you a few technology, what is JavaScript and what we do with JavaScript with it, I mean, the sky's the limit. Over the past 10 years, 15 years that I've seen, industry that they require skill sets is JavaScript out there with it. And if you focus your JavaScript program in one of these fields with it, I guarantee you that is a very viable set of skills that you will need to know with it. So the second question I get asked a lot is, what is the difference between Java versus JavaScript? Well, a lot. It goes back to the name. They call it Java. It just happens to be the spur of the times in 1995 when they were programming it. It has no relationship. All right, no relationship. They named JavaScript, which was the worst decision ever to name something. So it was developed in 95 when the web was booming with it as well. So I'm going to use this analogy. What's the difference between the car and a carpet? Well, there isn't any different. The carpet doesn't have an engine. The car has an engine. Well, the only relationship is maybe the carpet goes inside the car, but other than that, it's apples and oranges with it, right? So the car has an engine. The carpet's just made out of fibers and colors and more for aesthetic. There is no. It happened. Well, they could start with the letter C. That's about it. Like Java and JavaScript with it, they start out with the letter J. That's the only thing that has in common, and it confuses people with it as well. So JavaScript is totally independent from what it is today, and how it evolves to today's programming language with it as well. Third question, I want to move on, is what is the term? You can hear what's called JavaScript ES7 with it. So the folks that actually in what's called the European Computer Manufacturer Association script. So these are the folks that actually standardization helps so much, is because again, these technology that when we are sleeping, half of the world is making decisions, and when they're asleep, we're awake and we're making the other half of this decision. So it just happen, we have to have some common denominator to actually to understand how the language evolves with it. So you have, it started out, like I said, 95. If you remember the browser called Netscape, I don't know if you remember that, but back in the old days with it, they used to have a browser called Netscape. The creation of Netscape, people was, these guys, these programmers stay up very late, and I think the only relationship they relate to is coffee with it. So everybody drinks coffee, and they started naming programming languages after flavors of like mocha and different type of stuff with it. And it just evolves throughout the years with it. So they use different type of training, and they use different type of library files. And the first one that actually came up was ES1. So the ES script that came up was ES1, ES2, ES3, ES4, ES5. And then different ES and different versions of ES came up. And the most recent one is they actually put in the map, bear with me, and the for each loop in there as well. And in 2015, more recent, the past 5 years now, they came up with ES6. And those of you that ever had me for Java, true object programming, you would understand what I would say is it has classes and objects with it. And we're going to talk about a lot of the object-oriented programming in this language with it as well. And the most recent one is ES7. We're 2020, so we're still using ES7 as the most recent one that's out there with it as well. So it's just a version of JavaScript, and JavaScript is an object-oriented programming language in today's world with it. So it's one of those things that you need to just to keep your update. It's not it's a very powerful language, and it's used in application for web development as well. So I want to end it with 3 questions with it. The last thing I would also recommend you is this link right here, and I have this bookmark on my web browser because every so often I would pull up a script. I want to make sure it's compatible to different browsers with it as well. And it looks like this. If you go to this table, and this table tells you basically what versions of you're using. Here's the ES5, and these are what's included in the ES5 library files with it. But if you look at this column as what's compiled over the years with it, you could see that different versions of browsers can run on different browsers and different platforms, such as the mobile, the desktop browsers that you have is in this group, the server running style with it. Don't worry if none of this makes sense to you. I just want to put it out there, bookmark it. More advanced JavaScript folks would understand what's going on with it as well. It's a resource that you will go to and check it out with it if you need to with it as well. Okay, given that, I'm going to end this video right now.